Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us here on INC Live and for the UFC 321 preview show. My name is Karl Bainbridge and I am joined by the man on the right hand side of my screen. And with this being the UFC 321 preview show, I am joined by the dusty bin to my Ted Rogers. It's Joe Neal.
Glad to be here. I'm glad to be the big pile of money to your Bill Burr losing his pride as we are in Abu Dhabi.
We certainly
and
are.
yeah,
Have you ever
but
heard of 321? Because I was talking about some people, because I always like to have some kind of topical reference, some sort of allusion to the card that we're
really,
on. And they were saying there is no way that anyone is going to know what 321 was.
what is 321?
It was like a 70s game show. It was like they had to solve riddles, and the bogey trap
Oh,
prize was like a bin, dusty bin.
really? That was the worst. That was the last prize you get a bin.
Like, trust me, Saturday night television in the UK during the 70s and the 80s was god awful. Like, we had a snooker based quiz show, which was getting like 10 million viewers.
Crazy to think. I always think of. I used to be like, we gotta watch the game show channel as a kid because what's it called? Remember as it going to my mom. My mom was I'm going crazy. My mom would like go get her tires replaced or something like that, and I'd be stuck in the waiting room. There's like no magazines I can really read, and I just would watch the game show network they had on there. I was like, why don't I watch this? I love Family Feud and like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and there was always like fun like '70s games, and I think SNL parodying that era has ruined it for me.
It certainly has. Hopefully, your interest in MMA hasn't been ruined. We are here to talk
Get
about
again.
UFC 321. Before we get to that card, though, we do need to give a bit of a state of the union, as it were, because people who have been following INC, a big thank you to everybody who has been sort of getting behind the channel, posting comments, sharing it to your friends. One of the things you will have noticed is that we have been struggling a little bit when it comes to the post-fight reactions. Joe has been dealing with some things over on his end, and I think it might be the right place for us, Joe, to talk about what's going to be happening with those and a little bit of a advertisement, as it were.
Karl sent me a message, and it was a little alarming weeks ago. And I don't know why you're laughing. This isn't a joke. And it just was Vince McMahon saying "You're fired" over and over, and I thought that was awkward. But here I am. No, I've all jokes aside, been doing a lot of volunteer work, helping teaching like children's literacy, and I do this every 2 weeks. And when I'm not doing the weeks I'm not doing it, usually still working on it. And so it's kind of taken a lot of my time outside of work, and it kind of on top of work, I'm trying to move up, trying to get promotion to kind of, get to where I need to in my career. Then I've taken up a lot of time, and uh, that combined with like sometimes I just like don't have time to even watch the fights. So by the time I do watch the fights on a Sunday, it's like okay, it's Monday and I can shoot this. Like this isn't we've already missed our window, right? So because of this, me and Carl were talking, and something like the preview show is a lot easier for me to do. Like ironically enough, right? The one that takes more time is the one that's, easier for me because it's like a scheduled thing. It's something I can like kind of plan things around. Whereas sitting down and watching like I can literally be using the restroom like during the week and type up notes for a video show. Like it's very easy to get things going. Whereas recap is I have to sit down, spend 3 hours watching it, or so, write my notes, and then shoot the video. Like it's fun. It doesn't seem like it takes more time, but it does. And so me and Carl have been talking about it for a while. And initially, I was thinking I might just need to take a step away, you know, altogether from the channel because I don't know if I have the time. And for talking with Carl about it, it's like no, no, no. Play should be because I don't want to leave you guys. I don't want to leave Carl. Me and Carl have become friends in these 2, 3 years I've been here on the channel. So and I still love you guys. I still love the sport. I still love hanging out with everybody. So it's like it's kind of hard to walk away from. I'm on the recaps, and I'll probably help out here and there. But we probably should have someone step up and join the INC family, one that I wholeheartedly endorse. It's a great job. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun, and kind of make the recaps your own. Because it was something I took pride in was making the recaps my own and like having a joke of like the guy who did whatever every time and stuff. So definitely wholeheartedly endorse. Definitely want to recommend if you're interested, if you have, the knowledge, the know-how, you'll be great. And because if you think, oh, I might be nervous, well, watch my most recent recap, my first one, and I was on my phone freaking out. Uh, so, but
So, so yes, the offer is available to anyone who wants to take part to take over Joe's role with the post-fight recaps. If you are interested, then please send us over a demo tape of some of your previous work. Maybe you could take inspiration from the RDR versus Brendan Allen card that happened recently. Just maybe like a quick sort of 5 or 10 minutes, your sort of idea of what you think you could bring to the channel. We'll certainly have a look at it, and if we think you're good enough, then the offer is available to join the team, and we would really greatly appreciate you having the opportunity to do so. So our email address is available on our information screen on INC Live. So respond to that, and we'll be more than happy to go through everyone's application and see who is good enough to join the team.
and if you know anyone that knows Alexa Grasso, you're probably already at it. You're probably going in. But there's a
No
weird requirement.
No Grasso is going to be appearing on any of the upcoming cards, but one person that is going to appearing is Merab Dvalishvili because the title fights for UFC 323, the final card of the ESPN era, have been announced, and Merab will be going for a record-breaking fourth title defense in a calendar year as he takes on a guy who is already beaten before in Piotr Jan. Also, the flyweight title is going to be on the line, a very eagerly anticipated matchup with Alexandre Pantoja taking on Josh Van. So, we're a couple of days removed from these fights being announced, Joe. What's your general feeling regarding them?
That was a so I yeah, like I told you, I'll just be quick on it. Smoking recently. So it's been 3 weeks on, and normally when like big fight news happens, me and the buddy, me and my best friend we'll send each other a ciggy break, and we'll just go outside and like smoke a cigarette and just talk about the fights. It was really funny because he goes vape break 'cause he's quitting too, and he's like only allowing himself like 2 or 3 cigarettes a day, and I don't have any nicotine in mine. So we went out there and we just talked about like Marab, like it's like he just is trying to be like, no, I'm fighter of the year this year. No one else but me. So that one was really exciting. And then he missed the Joshua Van Brandon Royval fight. So it was like, well, if we're going in and putting it on. And that fight is still like I loved Diego Lopez, John Silva. I loved Julio Roundtree and Yuri. I love those fights. It's probably fight of the year is probably still Roy Val, Joshua Van for those like last 30 seconds alone. So so I'm super pumped for that because Pantoja and Joshua Van. This isn't a rematch. All right, like I'm in.
Yeah, it's much needed for the flyweight division as well because we are starting to get to the stage where Pantoja is being so dominant, he's starting to cycle through some of the other contenders. So having a fresh face, and I think this might be a bit too big of a jump for Josh Van, but I like seeing new faces fighting for the belt. I like to see fresh contenders, and I'm curious to see how his takedown defense would handle the sort of Pantoja bull rush.
I'm wondering if his if he can counter the bull rush. Like if his game plan is to just like time uppercut counter. Because as much as I love the Kaya Sakura jumping knee counter to it, Pantoja has a crazy chin. So he would just take it and then like now he's on the hips. So an uppercut kind of still creates distance. So I'm wondering how much that is going to help. But then again, Pantoja also beat up Kai Car France on the feet. which wasn't how I expected the stand-up portions of that fight to go. I thought he was going to beat him up pretty good, but he beat him up on the feet even like a little bit. So who knows? Honestly, that fight is very exciting to me.
Do you feel that way about Murad versus Jan too?
I think that fight's going to be like the first one, which I genuinely loved, and because it was still pretty like the time Jan had only really had like close fights. You know, he had the first Aljo fight, which he threw away. It's all like it is. And then the second fight was very close, and I thought Aljo won, but a lot of people didn't, and people were saying he was the unground champ. And then here comes Morocco just running through him and just overwhelming him. Like you see Jan, like I don't know what to do. And that was kind of like no one's done this. Hold on. And I think he'll do something similar here. Um, and that's kind of like, oh, it kind of cools me off. But at the same time, it is really cool to be like, dude, this guy's going for 4 title defenses in a year. Jon Jones fights once every 7 years.
Against stylistically favorable opponents.
Yeah, or against people who are 50,000 years old. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if him and Jake Paul are like, they're both like, you know what? We're fighting Sugar Ray Leonard next. Like, Jon Jones is probably like, yeah, I'll fight Tyson. Yeah.
Well, we will be discussing those two title fights in a lot more detail come December, and we will have our Christmas jumpers for that one. For now, though, we are turning our attention back to UFC 321, which will be taking place in Abu Dhabi. And I feel like I say this pretty much every year when it comes to the Abu Dhabi cards. The UFC has started to get into this sort of mold of having these kind of marquee events that seem to happen at the same time every year. So you've got the Miami card in April, you've got International Fight Week, you've got Madison Square Garden, and then Abu Dhabi just before that. I think of those marquee cards though, the show I look forward to the least is the Abu Dhabi one.
Yeah, same here. 100%.
And I mean,
The one
I
I
know, yeah, sorry.
the one I used to look forward to the second most, obviously, let's not like dance around it. International Fight Week is like typically a big one, but only like the last like 5 years or so, 6 years, they started doing the MSG card, which is awesome. No, it's been longer than that. It's been like 2017, almost 10 years. Yeah. Um, but MSG cards, it's always sick. It's really cool. But the one I used to like was Super Bowl weekend. I guess like the Super Bowl weekend card because they wouldn't want to put like what's it called, like big names on that card. They would put like workhorse fights on that card. And so the name value, like so the sales numbers wouldn't be crazy. It's like they don't want to like put too much investment in it, but they you would get so much out of it as a fight fan because I mean, it's no secret my favorite fight of all time. I've been very open about it. Is Edgar Aldo won in the middle of the Super Bowl weekend card. You also had, on that same card, Bigfoot Silva, smashing, uh, which is just awesome. But I think Condit Nick Diaz for the Super Bowl weekend card.
I think it
I
was,
know it
yeah.
was in the fall. I think it was in the fall, so
Because
or not fall, the spring. So yeah, early spring, late winter. Um, there was another like big card, but so I used to like really be down for those because it was like you're always gonna get like like a workhorse fight, like workhorse card. I think Dennis Bermudez and Matt Grice was on one of those cards. Which, if no one's watched that fight before, I'm not gonna spoil the result. Watch it. Matt Grice, Oklahoma native. I've never met him. One of the few guys I haven't met. But like that fight is great, and I love Dennis the Menace Bermudez. He was on my boys' state while he was fighting.
could there be any boys potentially on our main card or maybe on the prelims as well? You can see those
Oh
on
yeah,
your screen right now. One thing I will give them a lot of praise for when it comes to this card is If you look at the main card, every fighter of those 10 is ranked in the top 10 of their respective weight class. So you can't argue that the UFC aren't trying when it comes to at least relevant fights in their respective weight class. The quality of those might be a little bit questionable, but we'll get into that in a little bit more detail once it gets to that time. I do have one question to ask though to sort of open up this segment of the show. You're a bit of a betting man, Joe. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to put a bit of a betting line. What is the betting line that Gilton Almeida throws a teep kick into a double leg takedown in the first 30 seconds against Volkov?
Oh, it's got to be minus. Like it's got to be a
Minus
favorite.
500?
Yeah, like my brain is like my brain. Admittingly, if I was taking seriously, minus 400, right? Is what my brain is thinking. Minus 400. He T kick double out the jump.
It is probably the most. I think with most fighters, you kind of know what to expect. I think he's probably the biggest example. Like, even my dad, who knows nothing about combat sports, knows what he's going to do in every fight.
Yeah, it's hilarious. It's the fact that it only in heavyweight
Hmm.
is not gonna work, and it's hilarious. There's things fighters do in every fight, right? Like with like Korea, you're gonna see him shoulder roll into a right hand counter every fight. With Tom Aspinall, he's gonna bounce once forward, and we'll talk about this later, obviously. He likes to bounce forward, bounce back, and then he steps in. But like, dude, he's like if he's looking to moving, that's what he's gonna do. If not, but and then like Mackenzie Dern, she's gonna look good. That's the thing she does every fight. But um he does the same thing every fight. Like it's not like, oh, it's like a little thing he just likes to do, part of his game plan. No, that is the game plan. Like that's it. That's all there is. And it's so funny that it works. Because he's really successful at heavyweight. And I hate it and love it at the same time.
I think that's the part that I think does annoy people about Jilton. Because if you check Jilton's social media, he comes across like a decent enough bloke. He's a family
I'm sure he is,
man.
yeah.
Yeah, a family man. He seems well spoken, very, very decent. It's just that fighting style. And as you know, I'm somebody who likes to sort of favor sort of more competitive fights, end-to-end momentum shifts. So when you have somebody immediately getting it into his domain, and rendering the fight almost redundant. That's something that it personally puts me off. It's impressive, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to criticize Jilton for doing what guarantees him success. It's just not what I look for as a fight fan. And I think you touched on something as well. It's that I actually don't think he's that good of a takedown threat. Like he shoots from like halfway across the cage. He's on his knees by the time he gets to his opponent. In any other weight class, he'd be Ray Ciryl. And we saw what Josh Van did to Ciryl when they fought.
That's perfect. He would be Saruya. Yeah. That's 100% exactly how it would be.
Anything else that takes your fancy there? Because we've got Mario Bautista versus Umar. Is that something that interests you?
That fight is interesting because I still think, even though we have a champion who is the most dominant, like currently, him and Pantoja are the two most dominant champions in the business right now. And no one wants to, because they're the smallest guys. No one, like casual fans, aren't really going to say anything about it. Marab, actually, I know a lot of people who watch like 3 cards a year, maybe they know who Marab is because they beat up their God King twice, and that's why. But they know who Marab is because he fights so frequently, and they're like, this guy's awesome. So, which is funny. Um, I know somebody who looks a lot like uh, Dana White Contender Series, um, Sean O'Malley, to the point where it's like, you're the same guy. I've never seen them in the same room together, so I don't know. And he was like, I hate Sean O'Malley, which is just really funny. So he loved Marab, like ninja choking him. But despite that, it I think if you want the bang for your buck in entertainment, bantamweight is still the division you go to. because they're the most exciting. They have power in that division. It used to be lightweight. Lightweight used to be the best division for bang for your buck, and it's still very fun. Um, but bantamweight has power. They're very fast. They're very technical, and there's a multitude of styles and on different kind of levels there. So Umar and Mario Batista is a fun game matchup. Like it could be good, but it could be really bad. Like the ceiling for fun is like on a Dave Meltzer scale or a retro review scale. I'd say like an 8 is the ceiling it has. Floor is like a 2 or a 3. So that's kind of the risk reward there, but I'm interested regardless.
I think Umar's going to win that one fairly comfortably. I mean, I
Me
like
too.
Mario Bautista, and I think that a lot of the fans still don't want to give him the credit he deserves. But I think there is a gulf in quality, and I think Umar's going to show that. But I'm high on Umar. I thought he was going to beat Marab in January.
Yeah, that's fair. I I understand why people don't like Mario Batista. Trust me. Trust me. I definitely
You're the
understand.
big Aldo fan.
Definitely understand why people don't like Mario Batista. Here's the facts of that fight. He isn't a judge. Two, he straight up lost that fight. Right? That's not his fault though. Like that's not his fault at all. Yeah. The judges were for the Ayman Zahabi fight. I thought that fight should have been a draw minimum for me. Like I don't understand how it's a win for Ayman Zahabi, but a draw makes sense. But it is what it is. It's not his fault. Judges suck, and if you don't like his style, that's fine. But like the hate is like he's the worst ever. They talk about him like they should be talking about um, the next women's title fight after this one.
And it's one we will be getting into in a lot more detail coming up. 5 minutes to
I'm
go.
allowed one. I'm allowed once a show to make a joke about her.
5 minutes to go before we have to wrap up this segment of the
Oh, true.
show. Is there anything else that takes your interest when it comes to the prelims portion? Because one that sticks out in my mind, not necessarily because I think it's going to be a good fight, but more sort of what it represents. Hamdi versus Chris Barnett. Is there a fight that sums up 2025 heavyweight more than these two?
Knew you were gonna say that one. I was like, oh, that fight is so funny. That's the perfect example. This is what heavyweights are in 2025, and I love it. Remember when we all thought the future of heavyweights was like guys at 230, 230, 240, like being really quick, and it's like, no, we still got guys cutting weight, to 265, showing up,
I
built like
miss
me.
I miss that sort of post Strikeforce era when you had legitimate athletes competing at the top level of that weight class. Like it was awesome. Like obviously you had like Kane who was obviously doing his bit, Verdun was coming up, JDS, and even beyond that, you had Mark Hunt was
Ron Barnett.
fun, Roy Nelson, Dad Bod Josh Barnett, Travis Brown, who was incredibly underrated.
Mhm.
That was a good
It was a
era for the
lot.
heavyweight division.
That's the it's ever like that era was so sweet. I have two fights that I'm curious about. Uh, Nathaniel Wood is a 100% boy material. So he's one of my friends who's more of a boxing fan. That's his favorite MMA fighter right now because of his boxing technique. Ludovic Klein and Mateusz Rebecki
Good
could be a
call.
really good one.
Good call.
I like that fight a lot. Uh, Klein is awesome. And that's just like that dude is just awesome. So definitely recommend checking him out. But those are my big ones. And I love that no one cares about Rakic. That is just never not going to be funny to me.
So it is time for us to talk about our core main event of the evening, and the strawweight title is on the line, but it will be for a vacant belt. It is Virna Jandiroba, the number one seed, who is taking on the number five seed, Mackenzie Dern. Despite those rankings, though, it is Dern that comes in as a minus 140 favourite. You can get Virna at plus 120 according to DraftKings. Over on the INC poll, however, very, very close. Virna Jandiroba has 51% of people picking her to win, and you can get Dern at 49%. So, Joe, before we talk about the X's and O's regarding the fight itself, I think this is the best opportunity to talk about the state of the strawweight division. It used to be a long time that we used to consider strawweight as not only the best women's division in the UFC. Some people were even saying it has an argument of being the best in the UFC full stop. A lot of things have changed since then, and we come into this fight arguably with a strawweight division the weakest it's been for a long, long time.
I think I think saying it's the worst division is ridiculous. I'm not so it's not. It didn't go from like arguably top three division to a worst division, like a lot of people would say. I don't even think it's bottom three. I think women's bantamweight, heavyweight, and 205 in no order. That's just me throwing out the ones. Heavyweight's the worst. That's the order. Um, heavyweight and 205 are the bottom two, but those are probably the worst divisions. Strawweight isn't, but strawweight is pretty rough.
It's ailing.
Like,
I mean, when you compare it to, I would say, sort of 2017, 2018, that division was on fire. When you
yeah.
had like Joanna, Rose, Andrade, Claudia Gadelha, Carla as this sort of strong wrestling heavy gatekeeper as well to sort of keep the newcomers on their toes. It has just dropped off a cliff so badly, and it's such a shame as well because I used to love that era of the strawweight division.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. Like you had almost a miniature version of the Four Kings like era and middleweight boxing because you had Rose, you had Wiley, you had Carla, and Wiley, and you know honestly, you can throw in Ioana in there as well if you really want a fourth queen. Um, Ioana was kind of falling out at that point, but it's still not outrageous to say that she wasn't up there with them. Um, and because like Wiley Zhang and Rose had that that knockout. Then really good rematch where honestly I think Wiley Zhang won. Um, and then you had the worst fight of all time, which probably hurt it. So 25 minutes where the most interesting thing is Pat Barry making fun of Pat Barry in between rounds. You know, um, I still haven't. It's one reason why I left the recap is I was like, I still have like trauma of having to watch that fight over and over. Cut this out of the main video, so we don't want to scare anybody off. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Was that the tipping point for you? Was
No,
that the
I'm joking.
moment?
No, I'm joking. Couldn't. No, I'm clowning. I did watch that fight twice that night for the recap, and in hindsight, for anyone, by the way, if anyone is like, "Hey, I'm interested in that," oh, that scares me off. Here's a tip. Just watch it once and make sure your notes are good. And you can also just say, I wanted to rescore this and I can't. It's that bad. We'll forgive you. Like, the fans will forgive you. They'll understand because they're not going to watch it again either if a fight's that bad. Um, but like it was awesome. And now it's like I'm looking at it now. I had to pull it up, and it's like uh, in fight years, she's 84. Jessica Andrade is top 10.
Mm. And it's also an Andrade as well that seems just as fixated on trying to make flyweight work.
Yeah.
I think
And
for
Andrade
me,
that also knocked out Mackenzie Dern not that long ago.
there were there's been two big things which have happened in this weight class, which I think have sort of hurt its standing. I think the big one is I would say about 80% of the sort of downturn is because of this. We had a lot of big names in this weight class all leaving in a short space of time. Joanna retired. Carla went off to have a baby. Rose moved to flyweight. Andrade started dabbling in flyweight as well. And you didn't really have those sort of top names to take their place. So the girls who were around sort of number six, number seven, just kind of got moved up by default. And because the gulf in quality between those remaining big names, i.e. Weili, and the rest of the field, it became more evident. And the title fights haven't been competitive. But also as well, and the Weili fanboys probably aren't going to like me saying this, she wasn't anywhere near active enough as champion. I think it's
She
very
fights once a
hard.
year.
It's very hard to maintain interest in a weight class when the meaningful fights aren't happening, be it the title matches or the number one contender fights. And when you had Weili fighting once a year and staying quite quiet on social media alongside of that, it was very hard for people to get excited about a strawweight fight in the way that they would have done where if like when like Joanna was fighting every sort of 4 months, 5 months.
Really hard. Uh, her fighting once a year really kills it. Because, and another thing too is in a competitive division, which this is technically, despite the quality, division can be bad and be competitive. If you're fighting once a year, then your top talent are killing each other off constantly. We have a situation where, I hate being this way, Mackenzie Dern, not that long ago, was on a two-fight losing streak against Lemos, and prior to that, she got knocked out by Jessica Andrade. So, like they're or change my wording up, they're knocking each other off, not beating, knocking each other off.
Nearly fell into the
Uh,
Dana trap there.
I know. I almost had that. Don't vote them off. Oh, knocking each other off here. It kind of makes it where it's like, okay, well, now here comes the built-in defense of there's no clear contender. They
Hmm.
keep beating each other, and and that's unfair. That's unfair and not how it should go. Um, I mean, this is a division that needs some new blood, or it needs 'cause there's people in this, and there also just felt like people started just losing more. Like no, like Amanda Hebos had a lot of momentum, and then I think that Marina Rodriguez knockout that Dean ruined might have like killed it all for her. Damage done. 'Cause she isn't chinny, but she just is losing like way more than she was prior to that. Um, so I don't know because Amanda Hebos, I thought, oh, that's a title contender probably one day. She'll probably be a title contender. She's 11, rightfully so, 11.
And it's a Amanda Hebas as well who holds wins over these two title challenges.
Weird, huh? Like you see her, we've seen glimpses of what that ceiling is. I think that Rodriguez KO must have done something. But to credit to Virna, she came in very good and against top competition. Like she had a really tough schedule out the gate and it was spotty, but we all knew like once she gets her footing, just the moon. And she's no disrespect to Mackenzie Dern, who I'm happy is okay. I'm okay is here in this little fight. But this to me feels like we're gonna crown Verna. Like spoiler alert, like I'm picking Verna here.
Do you know what this fight reminds me of in a lot of ways, in terms of how the fights come about, sort of fan reception to it? You probably know where I'm going to go with this one. It reminds me a lot of Rocky versus Mayweather because
297,
we
yeah.
because we have a vacant title fight, the fan base which don't seem really receptive. You've got that sort of veteran workhorse who sort of clawed and grinded her way to the top, but for whatever reason isn't taken seriously as a title threat, as an elite fighter, even for this weight class. And a sort of attractive grappling savant who kind of finds herself there by default.
Hmm. Um, with Myra, it was like she was attractive in the sense of like oh, she's a finisher and she beat Holly Holm. Nice. When we Mackenzie Dern is attractive in the nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a Mackenzie Dern fan before she made her MMA debut. So I used to watch her in jiu-jitsu. I was like, I was in jiu-jitsu at the time, and I was like, I'm just looking up techniques.
And I also think as well, much like what happened to Rocky, unfortunately, even if they do become champion, the winner of this
No one's
fight
gonna.
isn't going to be taken seriously as the real queen.
That's not fair.
It's not fair at all, because
It's
I
not
think,
fair at all.
especially from Virna's perspective, and we're going to talk about Virna in a bit more detail here. We've got a 22-3 record. In her last fight, it came against Yan Xiaonan at UFC 314. That fight came back in April. And along with Yan, you've also got wins over Amanda Lemos, which was her most recent finish, Lupe Godinez, Marina Rodriguez, Angela Hill, and also back in the day, Felice Herrig. Her three losses all have a similar kind of vein to them, which is Carla Esparza, Mackenzie Dern in the first fight, and Amanda Hebas. All fighters, you could argue, have grappling backgrounds. Is this maybe a sign of a weakness when it comes to Verna's game? That
She
when
doesn't
she's
like being
going,
on her back, for
no, she
sure.
doesn't.
No. She
It's so,
struggles to get off her back. She struggles to submit, sweep, or stand up. Like the three S's kind of elude her, and that's a kind of a fault in her game that I think Wiley would have exposed, not exposed, but looked to exploit.
yeah.
Um, because let's be honest, we all know that if Verna was the number one contender.
Yeah.
She should have fought Wiley. So,
And she
um,
was a worthy contender as well. Like, I don't think Verna would have beaten Whaley. I think Whaley wins that one quite comfortably. But I did see a lot of the big Whaley super fans arguing as if she'd cleaned out the division already. And I kept saying to them, well, Verna's on a five-fight winning streak. She warrants this opportunity. And it was almost as if they never sort of wanted to acknowledge that Virna was that good. And I think in general, I think that's one thing I have noticed from the fan base is like Virna's the number one contender for a reason. And yet people don't want to admit that she's actually good.
he's very good. Um, I would have picked Wiley Zhang to win, but I think it would have been clear 3-2. Like we would have walked out going, Wiley won. She's the better fighter. But Verna took 2 rounds. It would have been kind of similar to was it did Jennifer Maya just win 1 round or 2 rounds off of Valentina?
I think it was just the one. I think it was the second round.
Okay, okay. Because I feel like maybe that's my hater, like remembering it differently, admittingly. Like I'm trying not to make a joke. I've already used my one Valentina joke. Uh, um,
Oh, those are all coming in November. I'm ready for them.
I've been building it up. That's why I've been like limited to one a month, guys. So I just got November and let it rip. Been building up good graces. But now yeah, I think, I'm trying to think of like an example. Well, like, we all know where it's like, you know, um like hey, it's a one guy clearly won. But the challenger point fight. I think it would have been like that for Verna. I think I would have said 3-2. Wiley Shank would be my prediction. I think though, Verna's we it's messed up. We both know why no one takes her seriously, and I hate it. It's not fair.
Do you think it is just that? Do you think it is just like an image thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think so
Because
too. I I think, and this is kind of an awkward topic, obviously, but guys are like majority of MMA fans are men. Men are a little dumb as a whole. We're a little dumb. So, uh, like, I'm going to use pro wrestling here. Actually, this is a great way to do it. Becky Lynch is an attractive woman. Like, she's an attractive woman. Is she the most beautiful woman ever? Like, but she's very attractive. I know people who refuse to put her above Trish Stratus and Mickey James and Gail Kim. And I know people, you know what? Here's a better one. People who don't put Karma or Awesome Kong above like the people like even Nia Jax, which is weird. And it's like it's an image thing.
What
I
does
I
this
think it's an image,
what does it say
you
about
know?
me when my favorite female fighter is Bull Nakano?
That's okay. Listen, I'm a big Bull Nakano fan in her golf career. No, I'm just kidding. No, Bull Nakano's awesome actually. Uh listen, I've become a hardcore fan of current US champion Julia. So whew. um but so I hey uh
We'll try and get this
I
back
mean,
on.
it has to be like an image thing because um, I it's not fair. It's just 110% not fair because we don't go like trying to think of an example. Um, Hypothetically speaking, if Tom Aspinall was really ugly, no, I don't think guys would care. Yeah, Cain Velasquez. I know a bunch of Mexican dudes that look like him, but like, what's it called? This is a common thing I know among Mexican men because people of my family have it, where we have like our brow right here is like almost a little bit extended forward. We got that, as my uncle calls it, we got the classic Neanderthal brow, brother. And Cain Velasquez had it, you know. Like no one looks perfect, but no one cared that Cain Velasquez had that Neanderthal kind of brow to him.
I
Doesn't
don't
matter.
think
But for
I
women,
don't
it sadly does. It's not fair at all.
I don't think anybody would have an issue with Virna if she manages to deliver on Saturday. If
Oh,
she is going to beat
please.
Mackenzie Dern, how do you think the best way she's going to do it?
I think if she can stop the takedown attempts and keep it a grindy workhorse type of fight, I think avoiding the ground is also just the play at all with Mackenzie Dern. You can hold her and control her. We've seen that. Uh, but it's just not worth that juice is not worth the squeeze, I think. Um, I think a lot of dirty clinch work. I think showcasing Verna doesn't have the most power, but she can hit. She can throw. She's mostly gonna beat you by submitting you, by catching you with something, or she's got a decision. And I think this is a decision fight for Verna. Um, Mackenzie Dern does have some pop on her punches, but she stopped training with what's his name?
I
He's the
think
coach.
I think
He's
she
the coach. He's
restarted with I think she restarted with
Brillo.
Perillo.
Brillo.
Because
Oh,
I think Perillo did stop working with her, and she had that
mhm.
training camp for the Andrade fight. She went somewhere different, and that was an absolute disaster for Mackenzie. Looked like she regressed so much when it came to her striking. And then I believe her and Perillo started working together again afterwards.
Good. Good. Because when she worked with Jason Perillo, he honestly might have had the best non-Rose. Instead of Rose and Joanna, she might have had the best jab in the division. Like it was a very her jab was getting good. Her hands were getting better. Um, so I understand people picking Dern here. I think momentum is he's a killer though. And I think people just like to sleep on Verna.
Hmm.
And I think Verna is winning a 5 round decision 4-1 here.
Um, I assume you'll have watched the first fight between the two in the build-up for
Yes.
this. I went and rewatched it again earlier this morning. I was always of the belief, sort of my mind sort of mangled it to me that we had two grapplers who were sort of too scared to go to ground with one another and it turned into your sort of quintessential sort of grapplers having a kickboxing match. Usman versus Colby comes to mind. And my belief always was that Mackenzie just overwhelmed Vernon when it came to the striking. That fight was a lot more competitive than I remember it being. I think you can make an
Close.
argument for Werner, definitely Werner winning the second round, and maybe
Yeah,
elements
I
of the
think
third
so.
as well. I think for me, the big sort of tipping point in favour of Mackenzie was when it came to the striking exchanges, Durham was more willing to be aggressive and press forward and carried a lot more power.
he wins on aggression in that fight. I scored it that way too. I scored it 1-3, Dern. Because I remember watching that fight live, and they had this like weird rant about like what like looks in MMA. I'm not exempt from guys being stupid. When we were watching that fight live, I distinctly remember being like, "All right, well, I know we all know who we're rooting for. Guys, we're all messing around. We're being douches. But that's guys do when we're having fun and laughing." And uh, what's it called? Yeah, I remember going like, "This fight was closer than I thought." When I rewatched it, I was like, "Well, like this research took the same amount of time as it took to watch all of Tom Aspinall's career, but yeah, that fight is closer. And you look at the trajectory of who's improved the most since the rematch. Like when a rematch has this much time in between, I always look to see if who has made big leaps. And Virna has made much larger leaps. I think you can agree with that, right?
I think the big thing that's improved with Virna, like Virna is not like a striking savant by any means. She hasn't made that level of progress, but it has gotten better to the extent that she's able to use her jab and use her reach to get opponents against the fence with their back against the fence, and that's when she's going for the shot. And she did the same thing against Yan Xiaonan. She did the same thing against Lupe Godinez. That's a path to victory that Verna has taken throughout this run. The question comes down to, is she going to be confident enough to try doing that against Dern, who we know is going to want to be on her back and try and wrap her in submissions?
Awkward matchup for Ruby. I think this looks like Holly Holm in a win. And
I
I
hope it's
hate being
not. I
that
hope it's
guy.
not for the sake of the weight class.
I hate being that guy. I hate being that guy to be like, no, guys, we need this division to be good. Please, UFC, be better. And then suggesting that this fight could be bad. Because there's nothing wrong with being a boring fighter. But unless, like, there's nothing wrong with being boring. But as an audience member, we're not going to be excited to, watch it. And that's just is what it is.
And I think it's the optics of the weight class as well when you have like a
Exactly right.
vacant title because nobody considered Charles Oliveira a paper champion when he beat Michael Chandler because that fight was a belter. Jan Blachowicz, same thing when he beat Dominic Reyes. That was a very good fight, very good performance. Unfortunately, and I say this as her biggest super fan, Rocky versus Maivia wasn't a five-star masterpiece. And I
That's a good
think
fight, though.
that
Yeah.
it wasn't as bad as people make it out to be.
Yeah.
At least there were momentum shifts and fights, times the fight was close to being finished. It wasn't a disaster, but it wasn't that casual, friendly epic that it kind of needed to be. And I think that added to the whole feeling of Raquel kind of being a paper champion. So what I hope for the weight class is that we do get an exciting fight. And I think there's more chance of it than people immediately think. Like if you
Mm.
go online, you go on Facebook, you go on Twitter, you go on Reddit, they are already crapping on this fight. People are saying, oh, why is it the core main event to this card? It should be on like a fight night prelim or something like that. I'm not expecting a five-star masterpiece, but I'm not going to write it off as a disaster immediately.
I think crapping on a fight beforehand is always like not the best play because we've been surprised before.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just know a fight's gonna be bad. It's like Jake Shields and Holly Holm are crossing over for the most like, oh, this fight's gonna suck. Um, but like sometimes you just know. That said, I'm very curious. Do you think, because we know the UFC, do you think they're pushing Dern here?
That's actually a really good point. And I think as well, like, well, we saw this with Usman versus Paul Hughes, didn't we? I
Mm.
think that if you're in that area of the world and
You
you've
can
got a
kind of.
narrative that you kind of want to push, I hate to say it, I think you might be onto something there. I think it's The UFC want Dern to win this fight.
I just now thought about that. Like, wait a minute, where are we at?
Because who are the two types of fighter that are going to beat Virna? It's either distance strikers who can sort of scare her off with power,
Hmm.
or it's going to be a grappler that she's going to be less reluctant to try and take down, which is what Dern fits into.
Fits into both. With Perillo, at least, she can use her jab to keep
Yeah.
her up. I. It's a great pickup on that Paul Hughes one because there is no way. Oh, that one, I was sitting there watching. I was like, oh, am I getting Sean O'Malley, Peter Yan flashbacks?
The big thing, though, whoever wins this fight, whether it's Virna or whether it's Mackenzie Dern, we need to have an active champion.
100%. And Verna is active, thankfully.
Yeah. So, like, if we don't get another Strawweight defense, I would say about April, May time, we're just going to
I
be
would
in
love
the
one.
same situation we were beforehand. The belt needs to be in circulation.
At that point, who do you have like Suarez?
I think it's going to have to be Suarez. I think her versus Lemos kind of became a title eliminator
That'll
of sorts.
yeah, just awkward because Lemos, I think, just lost to Verna, right? That was her last fight, was the loss
Yes,
to
yeah.
Verna. But, I mean, weirder things have happened.
Sounds a bit like the heavyweight division right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. Speaking of,
And right on cue there, Joe, it is time for us to talk about our main event of the evening. It's not like we planned that in advance, is it?
plan anything. We're just gonna go first.
Yep, completely ad-libbed and no sort of major continuity errors anywhere. At least I don't think so.
No, there's no script at all reading. Anyways, I wanted to take this time to talk about my Lord and Savior Ronda Rousey. Uh,
So you do answer my emails.
yeah, I saw these emails. The script you wrote. I mean,
It's time for us to talk about our main event of the evening, and the heavyweight title for the first time in what feels like a millennia is going to be on the line. It is Tom Aspinall who is defending his title for the first time and he's going up against Ciryl Gane. Now, the bookmakers' odds for this one are as follows. You can get Tom Aspinall as a minus 375 favourite, Ciryl Gane coming in at plus 295. The INC poll, however, much more one-sided. Tom Aspinall has a 92% chance of winning this one according to the INC voters. Ciryl Gane coming in at 8%. Although if you are a Ciryl Gane fan and you want something which is encouraging, Brendan Allen had 7% to beat RDR last night. So look into that what you will. But Joe, before we do that, we need to talk about the state of the heavyweight division right now. And obviously, this is going to be our first heavyweight title fight since Jon Jones chose to vacate the belt rather than fight Tom Aspinall. And I might be sort of a bit presumptive here, and admittedly, I am biased, being a Brit, and obviously wanted to root for Tom Aspinall. How much damage do you think Jon Jones did to the heavyweight division in this kind of 2 year, 3 year saga?
he almost killed it. You know, just call it like it is. He almost killed it. Because on YouTube, I can't use swear as much. Because he's gonna make a hand gesture, and I mean, I feel like Jon Jones is, he was just a little bit of afraid of, being fighting Tom Aspinall. I don't think he wanted anything to do with Tom Aspinall. I think everything about Tom Aspinall really just put the fear of God into Jon Jones, because that's a guy. This is something me and my best friend talked about this week. Is Jon Jones is infamous for studying fight tape, right? Or having his coaches study fight tape while he does cocaine. But um, what do you have to what do you look up on Aspinall? His fight career is 12 minutes or something like that, right? Like in the UFC. Like there's nothing there to like really find. I've watched his whole career this week, and it's hilarious because I found one thing playing devil's advocate. Let's find something bad. He doesn't move his head when he's throwing it when he's in an exchange.
And that chin stays up a lot.
Yeah, tall guy defense a lot. Um, but when he's like looking to throw, if you're willing to stand and bang with him, you're and him can trade some shots that way. So if you think you can outpower him, if you think you can, like against a Derek Lewis kind of the guy, like that's your moment, right? Or Tai Tuivasa, that's the moment you do something about it. But good luck because he's also faster than you, and he's probably hitting you three times to your one. So, and I think John realized there's nothing he can like pick out because there just isn't enough footage. Everything at that point becomes speculative instead of concrete and how to beat a guy. And I think he was like, this is already a guy that's dangerous and scary. I don't want to hurt my perfect little fantasy.
I don't think Tom also I don't think not Tom. I also think John didn't see the reward in beating Tom in the way that I think a lot of the fan base do. Because in my opinion, beating Tom Aspinall at this moment in time, a guy who has so much momentum, a big finisher, a real stylistic threat, there is a lot of fans that would see a lot of value in that. John, though, I think he saw the name value of beating someone like a Stipe Miocic or an Alex Pereira, and that was what he was fixating on. I don't think he saw enough upside in fighting Tom and beating Tom, because from what I've heard, the UFC did match Tom's number. I think we were looking at like 30
They matched it.
million. Yeah, so
Hmm.
something like $30 million to fight Tom Aspinall. And Tom initially, I keep
John,
getting Tom
yeah.
and John mixed up here. John initially said yes, and then for whatever reason changed his mind. And a lot of the waiting to see what was going to happen was the UFC trying to get John back on board, and he just wasn't interested.
Didn't they match it twice? Like I remember hearing that they matched it twice. He was like, I'm going to say this number because there's no way they'd say yes. And then they matched it. And he goes, well, let me raise it. I'm thinking more like this. Then they matched it. And I went, like, no, I'm running.
And
Yeah.
I think it was very telling as well. When did they announce that John had been stripped? It wasn't like a big press conference, it wasn't anything like that. They did it after a Baku fight night when it was like it would have been what, 6 o'clock or something like that in the US. It really
Was
did feel like the UFC were just like, stuff this guy. But
uh,
we've said that so many times when it comes to the UFC and Jon Jones. Every time you think they're rubbing their hands of him, eventually they come crawling back. I don't think this is the last we'll see of Jon Jones. I honestly don't think so.
I have a hot take here for you. I was thinking about this when you brought up the name value worth. I think I think there's more of a I think there's more value in John winning than Tom winning. Fight. Because if Tom wins that fight, here comes the Jon Jones fans. Oh well, he's like 40. Then I bet he's way past his prime. Blah blah blah. Instead of going back on all these claims that he's still the greatest ever, and all this stuff. And I think that's unfair, but 100% what would happen. And I also think, for me as a Jon Jones hater, I go, yeah, Jon Jones, he's been pretty lucky his whole career. He got to be, historically speaking, the two worst divisions, and he caught a division right as their top talent was aging out. Kind of came in the right time. As Hulk Hogan once said, he was the right gay guy at the right time.
Might be a bit more literal than we think. At least if you
According to
believe MMA Guru.
the internet rumors, it's funny. He said it with no speculation. Then other people started saying it with no like proof of concept. He just said, "I just feel like it." We don't like if phrase it. He was out to here because he has a very large head. I just feel like it, And so, Cejudo, and Tito Ortiz are in the same club. We meet every week, the Big Head Club, and what's it called? So uh, he then other people were like, hold on, he was just saying crap because that's his shit.
Yeah.
There's actually something to this though. Wait a minute, he's just sniffing this guy's hair riding a moped, which is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Me and my friends have used that GIF of him like just sniffing that dude's hair on the back of a moped riding off as like me and the boys hanging out this weekend. Like that's our we were using that for a little bit to say like, hey, we need guy time away from our wives and girlfriends. But um I think he I think Tom beating him, it's like, okay, you're the best still. I don't know if it adds to a GOAT legacy for him. It's a big name and it helps with the casual fans. For me as a hardcore fan, I don't him beating Jon Jones would be awesome because like I want to see Jon have his comeuppance. But for Tom itself, what does it help Tom? He's like still the best. It doesn't help secure anything when he's only beaten like no grappling Ciryl Gane and 92-year-old Stipe Miocic coming out of retirement, like after 3 years of inactivity. Like it doesn't do much for me. Um, Whereas Jon beating Tom, he shut me up, you know.
Well, you made a Hulk Hogan quote there just a few moments ago. I'm going to make a Steve Austin one. Let's. I'm going to try and put on the Austin voice here. Let's just take Jon Jones out the equation. Bam, he non-factor. The fact is, Tom has the World Wrestling Federation title, and Ciryl Gane wants it.
I love that it's camera not bam, not factor. That was a
So
Stipe
Jon Jones
Miocic
is
quote,
Deborah.
right? Yeah, sound like Stipe there. Those guys are the same person, same Stone Cold Stipe. So I mean, I'm gonna get me one bear. What? Two bears. What? I'm out of retirement. Open up my can of whoop ass on Jon Jones.
You can tell how
Um,
much interest we actually have in this fight by the fact we're going so
oh,
off
it's a
tangent.
we already know who's winning, right? No, I'm kidding. We have a very I think we have a very educated guess on who's winning, and it's I at least I believe we were on the right track here.
So we are going to talk about our two fighters in a bit more detail here, and we'll start with our challenger, Ciryl Gane, a 13-2 record. So his most recent fight obviously came against Alexander Volkov at UFC 310. So we're looking at 11 months since he last fought. And that in itself, it wasn't the strongest claim to a title match that you could really get, because I know a lot of people who thought Volkov won that one. And yet it was Gane who got the victory. And based on the way the things have played out with Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall, he finds himself falling back into a title place. Is this something which you feel like Gane has deserved, or is it just sort of like we haven't really got anyone else?
They pulled the rankings here. I got to be honest. I think it should have been Volkov personally.
Even though Volkov did lose against Gane.
He beat him. Like you know what I mean? I mean, I think Volkov just straight up beat him. I watched it again. I watched at the time. I thought so. I watched it again this week, and I was like, I still score it 2-1. Um, should have. It's one of those two. Problem is, this division just keeps beating each other, and Tom Aspinall is so much head and shoulders better than everybody else. You kind of get the feeling that it's funny. Perfect two divisions to talk about because they're Jon Jones, his inactivity and ducking of Tom Aspinall created a stopgate. and Wiley Zhang just fights once a year, right? And it kind of creates the same problem. But what's funny to me, because I don't know, it's just kind of funny to me, is unlike unlike Strawweight, where Strawweight has talent in its division, it's just like few and far between. There's not a lot of heavyweight. Heavyweight's just kind of always been bad, you know. Because Curtis Blades just got knocked out by Tom Aspinall not that long ago. Pavlovich just got knocked out. And I think, and he lost to Volkov like right after he got knocked out by Tom Aspinall. Volkov with the Pavlovich win, because that's like a big one for me. It's like, oh, the Pavlovich win kind of puts him up there for me. That's another rematch. Ciryl Gane is a fresh face. It isn't somebody that Tom Aspinall didn't just beat in a minute and a half. So I understand them booking him here. That said, it's kind of one of those things where I think a lot of people are predicting the same ending, and it's really possible. It's really likely that we know what's happening here.
Do you think that people are maybe writing Cyril off a little bit more than we kind of think? Because I think a
Hmm.
lot of people essentially have this idea that Tom Aspinall's just going to take him down in the first minute, and then Gane's going to be a fish out of water and get subbed. But yet, one of the things I think, because I rewatched the Volkov fight as well, and one of the things that stood out for me, look, Ciryl Gane is not a grappling ace by any means. But there were moments when Volkov was trying to wrestle him, trying to take him down. There were moments like I saw Gane reversing position. I thought, compared to an admittedly low baseline, there were improvements to his grappling game. And also, as well, people forget this guy heel hooked Dontail Mays on his way up the ladder. So I think
He also his debut, Rafael Pessoa, he arm wrangled, who is a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
so. There is elements to his grappling. I think that, and I hate giving Jon Jones praise. I really do.
Mhm.
I think that Jon Jones fight made people think Ciryl Gane's defensive wrestling was worse than it actually is.
I think his submission grappling is bad, or like defensive submission grappling is a little awkward. That's but yes, like I agree with you 100% there. Everyone is like, oh man, he got thrown down so easy by Jon Jones. You thought that fight stupid.
Yeah.
Like why are we going for a no setup rear straight that squares my hips right for Jon Jones, who is only thinking takedown, 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 takedown. Like it's the equivalent of being like, all right, I'm going to start my fight offering the backpack to Damian Maya and Hamzat Shemaev. Like, what are we doing? Like, what? And then he gets put against the ground. I think he gave up in that fight because if there's a moment in it where Ciryl Gane, he gets out of the first guillotine, and then he kind of he sticks his head through. I don't know why. I'm not suggesting anything. I refuse to because I think that hurts the sport. Even suggesting something like that, but I think he wanted out. Um, and it wasn't like he was getting beat up either. It was just a weird moment. It's a really weird fight and moment for me. Mm.
Is
I
he
don't
going?
think he's. I don't think he's just going to get taken down though, like out the gate. I think this fight actually lasts almost a full round, which sounds horrible. Actually, really high praise. Hold on, because we have a guy like Tom Aspinall right now who's knocking guys out literally like in less than 2 minutes every fight.
It's a good thing you brought that up because I actually have the stats for Tom Aspinall's most recent fights here. Curtis Blades, 1 minute into round one. Sergey Pavlovich, 1 minute nine into round one. Marcin Tybura, 1 minute 13 into round one. The only times that he has gone out of the second round in his career, one of those was against, of all people, Andrei Arlovski. So good old Andre
Funny,
being
right?
being the most recent man to take Aspinall out of the first round. And in the other two, they were the two fights in his career that he lost. So he lost to Stuart Austin back when he was fighting in Bama, and that went 359 in round two. And also getting himself disqualified when he fought a Polish bloke in Bama 25. So the two of the three times Tom Aspinall has got out the second round, he has lost. Do you think
Yes.
those fights carry any kind of weight in this day and age?
The heel hook, not so much. They're kind of hard to say, right? Because I, it's funny. I couldn't find the downward elbow, but I could find the heel hook loss. The heel hook loss. I mean, he was like, I don't think he was a black belt yet. Like, like his grappling gets better. Tapping out early in your career doesn't mean like that's a very coachable thing to fix. You know, it's not like getting knocked out early in your career. If someone starts their career with like, yeah, I went 3-3 with three, I got knocked out cold and three losses. There's a tell. There's something there.
I think I'm not saying you should write off what happens at the regional level because again,
Yeah.
these fighters like three or four fights into their career, they're still not the finished article by any means. But I do think that you can maybe pick up elements which are, I would say, things to sort of keep an asterisk against, as it were. Because like you brought up Amanda Hebas earlier on in the show, and one of the things I did notice from Hebas's early career was that she was a bit chinny. And I did cite that as a cause for concern before she fought Marina. And it's kind of become the defining trait which has sort of
Hurt
almost
her
been held
career.
against her in this later part of her run. But I think when you are, and look, I've done this before. I have done this before in the past when I was a bit more immature when it comes to the sport. If you're holding weight against a fighter because they lost on the regional scene and using that against them, say, 9 or 10 years later, that's when it's a bit too far, from my opinion.
It's I will bring up one thing. I think if I have to play devil's advocate, that's part of the game, as we both know. You kind of have to be willing to look at every potential outcome and broaden your mind in a sense to like, oh, that's no way this is likely, but we should talk about it. And he was heel hook. If Ciryl Gane is good at one thing on the ground, he's actually not a bad little leg lock specialist. There's a problem with that from a jiu-jitsu standpoint that I can get into, but you've been heel hooked before. I wonder if Ciryl Gane is looking at that. Like, could I leg lock him? Um, the problem with leg lock specialists, though, like a Pusamar Palhares and all these other people, this one, you're hard to train with. I don't want to train with a leg lock guy, like without like some. If I know the guy, if it's like a buddy of mine that I'm really cool with, we can play some ground rules. But if it's like just another guy at the gym, I'm not going to train with that leg lock guy. I don't want to roll with him. Um, I want to walk tomorrow. Like a person like Ronda Rousey, like an arm specialist or a shoulders all day. It's not a big deal. Like I was a choke. Like my chokes. I never had any problem with anyone wanting to roll with me. Leg lock guy. But the other problem is you kind of go all in on a leg, right? Because the concept is my entire body versus one part of you. And when they get out, you tend to just end up on your back, as we saw in the Francis fight. Uh, you know, and that's the only time that's really come up. But you probably don't want a guy like Tom Aspinall on top of you because everyone knows him for the big quick boxing and knockouts and low kicks. He's a nightmare when he's on top of you. Ask Volkov. Like
That to me was one of his most impressive wins. I know a lot of
that's his
people
most
look at
complete
the
performance.
yes, because I know a lot of people bring up like Pavlovich, bearing in mind the run that he was on, and that is very impressive. But one of the things I think Volkov has always had, which I thought was very strong, was even though he does get taken down, it's very hard to be effective against Volkov when he's on his back. And Tom just steamrolled through him.
He's also good at keeping guys out. And Tom is smaller, not as long. Didn't care. Wouldn't matter. Um, I would say that was probably the second most impressive performance that night. Number one, I think we all know me
Yes, it was. It
making
was
my
your debut
INC,
show.
yeah, making my INC debut. My card has a special place in my heart. You know? Fun fact, uh, there's a comment. If you go back and look at that channel, I don't mind airing this out. It's because I'm fun. It's just funny just to me. Um, there's a woman who comments on that channel on that video. She's like, she used to always call MMA UFC, and it used to drive me crazy. But I dated her once before, and then we got back together. Like after that video, she cheated on me. I was ready to marry that woman, and then well, oops, kind of funny. Only funny to me, but I laugh at my own misfortune. It's kind of funny to me. Um, but I think the interesting thing is, how do you think the stand-up's going to look?
That's a big question I was going to ask you actually because um, I think that when it comes to the power advantage, you've got to give it to Tom.
What's
I'm
that?
just a little bit concerned that Tom does have this tendency to keep his chin up there, and we know that Ciryl. The best thing about Ciryl Gane's game is his movement and his accuracy, especially for the heavyweight division. He is very light on his feet
Mhm.
for that weight class. So I am maybe concerned that Tom might be leaving himself in a dangerous position if he was to stand and trade too long. And I think as well, the UFC are going to put pressure on Tom to maybe try and strike. We know that the UFC can do that. Ask Muhammad Makayev. That being said, I kind of get the impression this fight's going to play out similar to Ngannou versus Renan Forever. I think that Tom is going to sort of test the waters a little bit with the striking, see what this guy can offers. And the moment he finds any kind of pushback, he's going in for the double leg and he's going to try and finish him down there.
I think I agree with the accuracy things of Ciryl Gane. I kind of break it down like this. This is going to sound weird. I think I would put, yeah, okay. I think I would put um Aspinall. I don't know if he has the power advantage actually, because whenever in a lot of his finishes, it's a lot of accuracy based in like just quickness type stuff. He isn't putting guys like, he isn't Derek Lewis and guys where guys just go stiff. Like, and he might still have the power advantage because actually I don't know. I mean, with Ciryl Gane, it's a lot of
Yeah,
accuracy stuff too.
yeah.
They're very similar in the sense because we're gonna have most the two best footwork guys at heavyweight fighting, arguably the two fastest guys, and it's kind of it's an interesting matchup on the feet. I don't think I think Ciryl Gane's a little awkward to hit. He's really good defensively on the
Mhm.
feet.
Yes, yes, I will say that. It's just I've never
But
known Garn to be that kind of one shot, like in the way like
yeah,
you don't like you look at what Tom Aspinall did to Pavlovich or to Bureau or Blades, that sort of big one shot power diving in and dropping him immediately. Garn just kind of makes you wilt, and then eventually you don't
fair.
want to take any
Yeah.
more, and then he turns
Kind of
into
regret
Trevor
saying that.
Peak.
Yeah.
He turns into Trevor Peak trying to finish you against the fence.
It's just a fun. It's not a Ciryl Gane fight if he's not trying to hit you in the back of the head full force.
I remember
Honestly.
JDS was proper livid about that.
Yeah. My best friend still holds it against Ciryl Gane because he goes, blatant cheater, Ciryl Gane. But I think hitting someone in the back of the head on the feet, it just happens. Like it's an accident. I gave him the benefit of the doubt at the time, and I still try to. That said, he's done it an awful lot, hasn't he? He's done it a lot. You know,
So,
it's
yeah.
Jack Slack said, Ciryl Gane is the prettiest striker ever when he isn't trying to hurt you, because that's when he stuns people, and then he just loses all of that technique when he hurts you. Just Trevor peeking it like is exactly the perfect way.
So we're going to finish off this segment with a final question because we've got like about 5 minutes to go here. Depending on who wins this fight, what do you see the UFC doing? Because you'd think if Tom wins, it's going to be the Volkov versus Jailton winner.
Hmm.
Pereira's kind of trying to throw his name out there, but I don't know whether or not the UFC are going to like bite that hand because they got Carlos Ulberg in the mix there, a light heavyweight. If Ciryl Gane was to win, though, is Jon Jones getting on that phone straight away and saying, I want him at the White House?
I think we see the Money in the Bank cash in. Yeah, I think we see that. The proverbial, not like literally. That would be funny though, wouldn't it? Like, comes out like Brock boombox in it. Just like huge mustache. Like, is that a milk mustache? What's that white substance all over his underneath his nose?
I was picturing like Mr. Burns, Mr. Snrub from
Oh,
someplace far away.
I was thinking he's gonna show up full Tony Montana powdered sugar mustache. Like, that's not even the same. That's not even a Money in the Bank briefcase. He just stole a briefcase. Like, he just stole a guy's suitcase coming out. Um, I think if I think that's a very likely if Oregon wins. If Tom Aspinall wins, they're going. Like, what do we do? I guess you're fighting Volkov Almeida's winner. You know, which well, I think it was Volkov, most likely. Hopefully. That said, wouldn't it be funny? It's Almeida, and Almeida just tries to teep double leg and just gets countered and knocked out like instantly.
All remains to be seen.
We'll see.
So that is our breakdown for UFC 321 and our two title fights. Joe, I want to say a big thank you for you joining us, taking 2 hours out of your day to listen to me rabbiting on about nothing.
It's fair. No, I'm kidding. It's honestly always great just getting to do these. These are my favorite things to do is the you and me face to face type stuff. The closest face to face, at least. Yeah,
Yeah, we need to get ourselves another episode of Uncaged done at some point. Maybe not this
we
week,
do.
but maybe next week.
I was quite tired. I took my allergies were acting up yesterday. They're fine now. Took some. I was like, I'm gonna take some allergy meds, and I was like, what of it? I just took the wrong ones. I took NyQuil, and I went, oh, I'm in for a ride. And I just went to bed. And I woke up at like 3:30 a.m. my time, and I went, well, I'm ready.
But
Meet up in 2 hours.
Well, it
So,
is a good
um,
it is a good thing that you did bring up the Patreon page though, because if you do like what you've seen here and you want to contribute to the making of a lot of our videos, both here on INC Live and on the main channel, you can donate to us at patreon.com/. It's not cage fighting. Over there, you will get a host of exclusive content, including INC Uncaged, where me and Joe answer some viewer questions. You will also get the chance to nominate a classic retro review of your choice. So, any event in the history of mixed martial arts, be it the UFC, Strikeforce, we've even done an Invicta card in the past, you name it, we will try our best to get it covered. And speaking of the retro reviews, we have got one coming up this Thursday. And with the heavyweight title being up for grabs, we are watching back, well, Mitchell is watching back a classic heavyweight fight from years gone by. So, Joe, what event are we going to be looking at?
didn't have this one up. You blindsided me. No, let's see. I had it here a second ago. Am I crazy? Do you remember? Oh no, because the last one we did was the Eagle, which was uh, that one was up. The Beeb one.
The joys of
Oh
live
no.
broadcasting here.
Oh no. Oh, I found it. I'm crazy. It is UFC 116 with the honestly crazy card. You have uh, Shane Carwin, the biggest hands ever, taking on Lesnar. And I'm going to be in the Mitch video holding up a sign like they did at the most recent Brock Lesnar match that says he shouldn't be here, and we all know why. Did you see that?
I did see that, yes.
Awesome that they had that sign. But yes, that card is so good. Yoshihiro Akiyama and Chris Lieben is a chef's kiss. But no one talks about this fight either because it's just kind of overshadowed when it's the co-fight of the night. Krzysztof Brzezinski versus Stefan Bonner 2 is legitimately amazing. Like watching that live, I have fond memories of us going, well, that's fight of the night. And then like Yama and Leaping, and it's like, never mind. And then the main event is really good too. So fantastic card.
As mentioned before, that video will be coming out on Thursday, so we're all going to be looking forward to that one. Mitchell says it's one of the best cards that he's personally covered since he started on the channel.
Mhm.
And speaking of the retro reviews as well, the poll is up for our December card. And as mentioned before earlier on in the show, Merab Dvalishvili will be making another title defense for that one. So we thought we would look back at one of the classic bantamweight champions from years gone by. Some people consider him the greatest bantamweight champion. Some consider him the most controversial. Joe,
Absolutely.
who are we going to be talking about and what card could we potentially be looking at?
We get to cover everyone's favorite EPO injected preschooler here with TJ Dillashaw or Dillashaw, who admittingly, I call him a preschooler because I like to call it's an old Tommy Toll thing, talking about all the Team Alpha Male guys. Paul used to always say that they're all preschoolers. But yeah, TJ Dillashaw, uh, what a champion he was. He was a great champion, and it's ruined because he wasn't number one at bantamweight ever for me. He was very firmly number two and looking at number one. And then EPO happens, and that the rest is history, as we say. Um, but we're looking at UFC 173, 177, which is a weird card, but of interesting one. UFC on Fox, Dillashaw versus Barrow, and UFC Fight Night, Sandhagen versus Dillashaw. And these cards are all very interesting in different ways. You have Sandhagen Dillashaw, which is an interesting one because um, it's 2 years after the EPO drug test. He takes on this Corey Sandhagen, incredible fight at the Apex. Julian Paiva versus Kyler Phillips is really good with in a very close fight, and it made people convinced that Julian Paiva was actually top five. And then they put him in for the match with Sean O'Malley. I remember that.
And a
I gotta
battle
get a
between
Sean.
two of our girls as well.
Yeah, to get a Sean O'Malley day in there if I can. But yeah, Miranda Maverick and Macy Barber, two girls or two of our girls. Macy Barber had to be removed from my stable and funny enough, was replaced by Miranda Maverick. But really controversial fight, but a good fight. And I'm very curious to see what people think now. Dillashaw, Brown on Fox, very interesting fight. Vincent Barboza, Paul Felder, oh, Joe Lozon, Taka Origomi, and then Misha Tate, Jessica I. Here we go, evil. Here we go.
Woof woof.
Yeah, it's so stupid. I love that. I love that moment so much.
It's how
Um,
embarrassed Graham Maynard is.
yeah, it's just
Because he was Jessica Rae's coach going into that fight, and you can see he's sort
yeah.
of like kind of grimacing when she's doing it.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the legendary Paul Buentello moment of let's do I got some fans in here. All right, don't fear me. Oh, come on. Don't fear me, fear the consequences. It's like, okay. All right. Um, and then 177. So Dillashaw and Barrow, spoiler alert, we're going to have a rematch, as we saw later on the UFC on Fox card. But literally like I think a day or maybe hours before the fight, before the weigh-ins, uh, Rao passed out while cutting weight and slipped and hit his head on like the toilet or the tub and knocked himself out. And they were like, hey, what's the other bantamweight we have on this card? We have Joe Soto, who said yes, and he was making his debut. And what's interesting is he was the first Bellator bantamweight champion, which is kind of a fun little thing. And people say this card is haunted. Joe Rogan has called it haunted card because it had like really weird background stories for almost every fight, and it has one of the funniest post-fight interviews of all time with Danny Castillo and Tony Ferguson that I won't spoil. It's so fun. It's like, why would you say that? I agree. Like, it's such a funny. It's so funny. Let's listen to what Danny Castillo says.
And if you want to
The
know how
winner.
Betch Correa earned herself a UFC title fight, that's the card to go for as well.
Actually, that is on that card. Weird,
Always have to
huh?
give a shout out to Betch.
Yeah, she's our favorite batch. Um, that's what they should have called. Ah, dude, do you think about that? In hindsight, it's 2020. They should have called her and Ronda match versus the. Never mind. Whoa, I
I've
slipped
got the
out of
Dr.
time.
Evil control on my desk here.
I'm not. I'm not dead. Just very badly burned. Um, UFC 173, which is the last one we're speaking about because it's the winner of this.
It's
Hidden
gonna
Brown.
win.
Dude, I'm saying it's the winner because it's up 63% of the vote. The next highest is 19. Like outside of a crazy comeback, it's just not like it's probably happening.
Well, Pena
Um,
269 levels of comeback.
oh yeah. So Hidden Barral, 32 fight win streak, was one of the few little guys that doesn't speak English to be pushed by Dana White to go. Him saying he's actually the best pound for pound in the world. Unknown, TJ Dillashaw goes in there and puts on a performance. And then what's kind of there's another crazy element to this. You have to add that the first UFC game from EA came out around that time, one with Jon Jones and Gustafson on it. TJ Dillashaw wasn't in that game. Like it hadn't come out yet. It was about to launch. And Dillashaw wasn't in that game. And he goes in and wins. And so the game was launching with a champion that wasn't even in the game. Like that's how crazy of an upset it was for the UFC brass. They didn't expect that to happen like that. Then the co-main event, Daniel Cormier versus Dan Hendo Henderson. I'm not going to say it's a great fight, but it's a memorable one that you have to just see it to believe it.
So
And
those are all of the potential fight cards that could be shown over in December. The poll is still open. As me and Joe kind of indicate, it's looking a certain way, but you never know what can happen. If you still want to try and contribute, then you can do so on the poll. Or if there is one of these four cards that you desperately want to see more than any of the others, then you can donate to the Patreon page and we will cover that. We actually do have a Patreon request which is waiting for us, which I will be trying to make some time to splice it all together. A bit of an old school one, so it's one for you to look forward to. With that being said, that is all the time that we have here on the UFC 321 preview show. My name has been Karl Bainbridge, that's been Joe Neal. And we are going to be taking a trip to New York City in about 3 weeks' time, where the welterweight title is on the line. Can Islam Makhachev take one more step to surpassing Khabib Nurmagomedov? This is the INC. Thank you so much for watching.